Now that is pretty amazing. Welcome to the epic scenery of the Isle of Skye. Scotland is home to some of the most dramatic landscapes in all of Britain, and it's views just like this that have made the Isle of Skye one of the most popular tourist attractions in the whole country, with many locals now fearing that the increase in tourism has led to Skye losing its quiet, remote charm. So, as part of our road trip around northern Scotland, we spent 24 hours on this famous isle to see exactly what it's like to visit in 2021. For 8 days, we are driving the NC 500, an 800-kilometre ring road running around the epic sights of Scotland's north coast. So buckle up as we experience the highs and the lows of Scotland's Route 66. You join us at the start of day 2 as we woke up feeling very refreshed in our own secluded corner of Skye. Hello and welcome back to the NC 500 road trip series, 8 days on Scotland's Route 66, and it's only just begun. Yesterday we left our start point in Inverness and joined up with the first section of the NC 500 before we took a little detour onto the Isle of Skye, and that's where we're going to be spending the next 24 hours exploring all of the best sights that this island has to offer. But first, I want to show you where we've been staying. If you watched the first episode, you'll know that we really wanted to rent a camper van for this whole trip, but it was just looking far too expensive for us. So instead, we rented a lovely little Vauxhall Corsa, and while we're on Skye, we've rented this Caravan for 2 nights, just to get that little taste of van life. So without any further ado, let me give you the tour. So the nearest village is a place called Carbost, which is just over the way there. And if we turn around, you can see this lovely field where the camper van's set. And you get this lovely little bench where we ate dinner last night. And then you get into the camper van through this door. Welcome to our cosy little home. I actually filmed most of this tour last night, so that's why the weather looks a little bit different, but I think you'll be glad because the whole place is an absolute state right now, so you're seeing it in its best light. So you come straight through the front door and into the kitchen, which has got a full cooker, it's got a fridge, a sink, and all of the extra things you need when you're self-catering, like pots, pans, mugs, glasses. They've provided everything for us. And then over to the left, you've got this lovely cosy living area. It's got 2 little sofas, and then you've got this table in the middle that you can extend so you can eat your meals inside if the weather's not very good. And just above the sofas, there's a few honesty cupboards. So if you didn't get a chance to shop before you arrived, you can buy yourself some essentials just from there. And of course, the highlight of this living space are those views out of the window. We sat here for a few hours just looking out there last night, and it really is quite breathtaking. And it's just so quiet around. It's a proper escape out here. And if we turn around and go down the opposite end, you can see the bedroom. Now I'm 6'1" and I fit in that bed fine, so it's a really good size. And it's actually very, very comfy. We both had a really good night's sleep here. And just next to the bed, you've got a little sink and mirror. And then just behind that, you've got the shower and toilet. Now again, I'm quite a tall person, but I do fit in the shower. The toilet is a little bit more of a struggle, have to sit on there sideways, but it works out. So there we have it. That's our cosy little Airbnb on the Isle of Skye. It cost us £97 per night, which is similar to a lot of other places on the Isle of Skye. It is a very popular place to visit. But, I mean, I think it's worth it. We've got everything we need here. And those views, just can't get enough of it. Obviously, being so remote, there's not going to be very good phone signal out here, and you're definitely not going to get any Wi-Fi, but I guess that's part of the appeal of being somewhere like this, just to disconnect and get away from it all. So it's just coming up to 9 o'clock, so it's time to get back on the road. It's a bit of a grey day today, but we're going to make the best of it, and we're kicking things off at a very famous spot. So let's get going. Just say a quick hello to the neighbours.
Hello. Hi.
With the neighbours greeted, it was time to start our Skye adventure. And with this being a road trip, the roads themselves are a big part of that whole experience. When you're driving on the Isle of Skye and the NC 500, you'll come across a lot of very narrow, winding, single-track roads. So you need to keep an eye out for the passing places where you'll need to pull over to let other cars come through. It's a little bit of a juggling game, but you get used to it. And some of these views already, just driving around, so stunning. It might not be as sunny as yesterday, but I almost think that makes it look even more dramatic. This is how I imagine Scotland to look. A little bit gloomy, a little bit grey, but very epic. The increase in tourism on Skye has been viewed as a double-edged sword amongst the locals here. Crowds are good for business, but not for getting around the island, with many inexperienced campervan drivers choosing to take on these tiny winding roads. But the area where we stayed felt very disconnected from any sort of busyness like that, and it was still within 5 miles of our first stop. And in the last 10 years, this beautiful place has gone from being totally unknown and unnamed to one of the most popular attractions on the whole of Skye. And the fairy pools are now famous for their crystal clear water, running through a series of waterfalls and natural swimming pools. We arrived at 9:30 and the car park was already filling up fast, so it's best to get here early if you can. Well, even the views from the car park were absolutely amazing. And now we just need to follow this winding path down to the first set of pools. But just look at these clouds over the mountains. Wow. The trail from the car park is very clear and easy to follow. There are some rocky, uneven sections as well as some short water crossings over stepping stones. But there are also plenty of places where you'll just want to stop and take in the surroundings. And after about 15 minutes of walking, you'll start to see why this place has become so popular. I have been told that you can swim in some of these pools, but there's not many people doing that today. It's still a little bit too cold, but the sun is coming out. Makes it easy to see how crystal clear the water is. Crowds can start to form around some of the areas, but it's very easy to walk on and find a quieter spot at this time of day. But it did get more crowded by the time we turned back to the car park. Oh. Well, that was really good. The path just keeps going and going. We could have carried on walking even longer. I think there's several different loops you could do around there, and the longest one is about 4 hours long. But that was great. So, on to the next stop. Wow. Little biscuit. Biscuit and a view.
This is how I travel.
So we just stopped for some views in Sligachan, and if that's not how you pronounce it, then I'm sorry. And now we're heading 15 more minutes on the road to Portree, which is the biggest town on the Isle of Skye. But that isn't really saying much. Portree is only home to around 2,500 people, which still makes it the busiest place on the whole island. Best known for its distinctive harbour, lined with colourful hotels and restaurants, looking over the calm waters of Loch Portree. Due to its central location on the island, Portree is also a very popular place to stay, with lots of the main attractions within easy reach. It also has a wide selection of shops, cafes and restaurants, making it a good place to stop for lunch or dinner. The centre of town does feel busier than other places we've been to, but there are still plenty of quiet corners to take in the views. Well, Portree is lovely. We just sat here on the harbour and had something to eat, and it's just so peaceful. That was a lovely stop in Portree. Definitely the most civilization we've seen in the last 24 hours. And now we're heading on to what is probably the most iconic feature of Skye's landscape. It's the old Man of Storr. And if you've ever heard anything about Skye, you've definitely seen a picture of this. The ancient, jagged shapes of the Storr are believed to have been formed by a massive landslide. And now this surreal landscape is one of the most iconic sights in the whole of Scotland, with hundreds of tourists making the climb up there every single day. You can actually see the rocks already just up ahead. And we're going to be up there soon. Predictably, the car park at the base of the trail was full to the brim, but the oncoming weather seemed to be keeping most people from heading onto the path. So, sensing an opportunity, we decided to hit the trail. So, we're just starting to climb up now, and it's gone very grey, so that's why we've got the waterproofs on. And the whole round trip should take about 2 hours. Let's do this. Hiker. Obviously, the views are very epic in the way that we're walking, but even behind us, that view over the bay, that's pretty awesome too. And then, of course, things started to change pretty quickly. It's really started to rain now. No rain on the whole trip so far, and I had to start now. Not wanting to turn back, we carried on through the rough weather, which turned out to be a very good choice. Now, I don't want to jinx it, but I think the rain's starting to stop, or at least die down a bit, and just in time as well. Now that is pretty amazing. Soaked. We could have climbed up a little further. You can actually climb up onto the Old Man Rocks, but the rain started up again. It just got a little bit crazy, and the views that we got were pretty amazing, so I'm happy with that. But bloody hell, absolutely drenched. Now we've got one more stop today, and it's actually a pretty special one for me personally, but there's a little twist to the tale, so I'll tell you about it when we get there. In the rain, we made our way back towards Carbost, where we started our day just a few hours before. A village that is home to one of Skye's biggest exports. Our last stop of the day was at the Talisker Distillery, which for many years was the only distillery on the whole of the Isle of Skye. And it's actually my personal favourite Scotch whisky, so I was really looking forward to doing the tour while we're here on Skye. And we've even stayed somewhere that's very close to the distillery, but it just so happens that on the exact day that we're here, there's some maintenance going on within the distillery, so they're not doing any tours, which is a real shame, but it's just one of those things that happens when you're travelling. Sometimes not everything works out. So we made our way back up to the caravan, where the sun finally made a very welcome appearance. Skye may be Scotland's second most popular attraction, but at least when we were there, it's still very easy to carve out a corner of this island for yourself, especially if you stay away from the bigger towns and structure your days around the peak times at the most popular spots. And of course, there are so many other things to see on the Isle of Skye, and we only did a few, but with 24 hours, I think we did pretty well. Cheers.
Cheers.
One traditional haggis and whiskey sauce.
Yes.
And one vegetarian haggis and whiskey sauce. So, I'm absolutely knackered, so I'm going to go and chill out in the camper van for our last night on Skye, and I'll see you guys in the morning when we're heading back onto the NC 500. See you then. Next time on the NC 500 road trip series, we take on one of the most dangerous roads in the whole of the UK, the twists and turns of the Applecross Pass. Wish us luck.